Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us to the seventh episode of the Thinking Out Loud podcast. For today's episode, we have Mr. Pratham Mittal with us. So Pratham is the founder of Masters Union. Pratham comes from a very distinguished family. Pratham did his schooling from one of the most prestigious schools in India, the Doon School. From there on, he went on to University of Pennsylvania, where he did his further studies. And in the US, Pratham had a lot of stints in terms of entrepreneurship. He had some failed startups. He had a very big SaaS startup, if I may say so, that scaled at multiple levels, right? And from there on, Pratham came back to India to start Masters Union, which is trying to revolutionize the edtech or educational ecosystem in the country, not necessarily edtech. So very brief introduction about Pratham, and thank you again, Pratham, so much for joining us to the Thinking Out Loud podcast.
Awesome. Great to be here. Excited.
So starting, with, and this is our first question. Growing up, how was it for you? Like, did you always wanted to be in the education space? Or, because your father had, I think, a mithai shop, then he went into the automobile sector, and then he started LPU. So, seeing him do all these things, you always wanted to be in the education space, or this came as a thing after you went to studies in Doon School, or probably after, the Ivy League?
See, actually, my dad's always been in the service sector, right? Mithai is a service sector, education is a service sector, and even automobiles to an extent is a service sector, right? Because you're providing services on top of the automobiles you sell. And for whatever reason, I was actually not very happy being in the service sector. So when I was in college and when I wanted to start up, one thing I was sure of is that I don't want to be in the service sector, right? So that's why I started up in SaaS, the very first thing I did out of college.
Right.
So in fact, quite the opposite, because as I'd sort of grown up, I'd seen my dad, working with customers or students, and it's just something that doesn't scale, right? So in my mind, anything that's servicey doesn't scale, and I don't want to be part of something that does not scale. However, later I was proven wrong, as I saw that the most scaled up companies in the world in the education field are not edtech companies, but actually universities, right? If you were to plot the top 100 companies in the world in education, all those 100 would be universities, and none of them would be an edtech company, right? So that's what that sort of hit me like a big revelation, and that's when I later decided to get into education. But for the first 10 years of my career, I was in SaaS.
Right. So I think SaaS. So basically, people mix with technology and SaaS for some reason, I feel. But it's not the tech revolution that's kind of changing the world, but I feel it's the SaaS model which is changing the world. I'm not sure if it's right or wrong, but are you on the same opinion, or do you think it's technology created on SaaS or whatever? Because I feel SaaS is the future, like anything which you're taking, right? Maybe a Netflix, maybe any subscription which you're taking online for any kind of, maybe YouTube also has like a SaaS model, say, where I subscribe to a channel's program, right? I pay $49 a month, 100 rupees a month, 500 rupees a month, whatever it may be. But the entire space on the tech side is moving to a SaaS model. Do you think that is making sense, or it's something else?
No, I think SaaS is a business model.
Right.
Subscriptions is a business model. SaaS in itself is not an industry. Industry is still technology, right? So when I go buy Salesforce as a tool, I can either go buy it and pay Salesforce $1 million and then use it forever.
Correct.
Right? Or I can go to Salesforce and buy Salesforce's tools for $100 a month. When I buy it for $100 a month, then it is SaaS. When I buy it for $1 million for my lifetime, then it is not SaaS.
Correct.
Right. Correct. I think that is the only difference, between tech and SaaS. Now, when you take a subscription of Netflix, that is not SaaS. That is a subscription you're taking to a streaming service.
Correct.
Right. There is nothing SaaS about Netflix.
Understood.
Right? SaaS is Salesforce. SaaS is when you use, Mailmodo, or when you use MailChimp, or when you use Google Forms. That is SaaS. When you're using software tools, but not paying for them as a product that you acquire, but
Got it.
paying to them as a service that you'd pay for every week or every month or every quarter, every year.
Understood. Yeah, I think fair point. I was always confused with the SaaS model and the tech being, kind of complementary or integrated in some way. But I think what you made told it totally makes sense.
Yeah,
I think that
tech can be sold as a service or as a product. And when it is sold as a service, then it is SaaS.
correct.
If it is sold as a product, then it is not SaaS. Then it
Right.
is just software.
Makes sense. Yeah, absolutely.
In fact, I'll give you a story. I don't know if you know about this. The entire concept of SaaS, you know where it comes from?
No.
So it actually comes from Salesforce. So earlier, back in the day, before we guys were in the industry, like all of us, you actually had to purchase software on CD-ROMs.
Right.
So Salesforce, which was a CRM tool, used to be sold in CD-ROMs.
Oh, okay.
Right. So you would actually buy the CD-ROM, and then you would install it in your computer, the software itself, and then you use it forever in your life. Right. No updates, nothing.
Okay.
And if there was an update, then you have to get a new CD-ROM and then rewrite that entire software.
Understood.
Right. So Salesforce was the first company to come in and say, hey, you know what? This system of us selling you software as a product, as a CD-ROM, is not interesting anymore. Right. The service for the customer is not very good. So they came up with this new marketing campaign called No Software. So it was literally like, that no parking sign. So there's a circle and there's a P in the middle, and then there is like the slash across it, right?
Yes.
So what they started doing was they started writing software and put a cut in the middle.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because software at that time was thought of as a product. And then they came up with this concept of, software as a service, where you don't buy it as a CD-ROM, but you just lease it from us. And it is hosted on our platform, not on your AWS instance or your servers. It's now hosted on our servers. That's how it became a service. And so the entire story of SaaS actually starts with Salesforce. Anyways.
Yeah. No, the insightful. I didn't know this. And obviously, when it comes to SaaS model, people look up to likes of maybe Salesforce, right? Like how they have come up. And I don't know, like I like HubSpot also in some way, because that's also something they are doing very not different, but the way their model works is also different. Because when we do pricing for Liminal, right, we check SaaS model, how people are pricing. Like, there's a beginner, there's an intermediary, then there is an enterprise where you kind of have to get in touch with the company to, get licenses or whatever. So when we did this entire pricing exercise for our company, we came across a lot of companies into the SaaS industry and how they price it. And that exercise itself was very insightful, as to say, because the modeling for them, I don't know how they work, but it's totally different. Like they have this beginner or intermediary or primary something, and then they have this enterprise, and the price difference between them is totally different. Like they want to grab the customer at maybe $100 a month, right? But when they scale, like what I feel is, when you are growing, they want to grow with you. Like the $100 subscription, like which is like $1,200 a year, would skip to $10,000 a year directly. There's nothing in between. Like I feel that when you scale, they want to grow. If you don't scale, you are okay. We are okay to provide you something like that. So I thought that's my thought on SaaS, like how the pricing works. Yeah. I'm not sure if that
dynamic pricing is at the core of SaaS, right? So when we started Outgrow, which is our first SaaS company, we had maybe like 100 customers or 100 users, and we used to pay $20, $19.99 to Intercom, right, for the live chat software. Right. Today we have 44,000 customers on that.
Wow.
Right. And right now we pay Intercom almost, as compared to $19 a month, almost $18,000 to $20,000 a month.
Wow.
So our annual billing is around $250K for Intercom. So obviously, I mean, and they grew like anything. We grew not as fast as them, but but of course they invested in us early.
Correct.
Worked out for them. Yeah. No, it's absolutely. Also, SaaS is very interesting. SaaS pricing. I don't know if you've realized, Intercom or Salesforce or HubSpot, for that matter, since you mentioned HubSpot, has different pricing in every country.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. It has a different pricing every week. It has a different pricing in terms of whether you're logging in from a office building or from a home.
Oh, is it? I didn't know
So
this.
if you enter from an office building, because they know what the IP address is, etc., then they
Right.
will dynamically change the price, because they know that as an enterprise or as a company, you can pay more than as an individual freelancer.
Okay. Okay. Understood.
So that dynamic pricing, there are companies that just do dynamic pricing and they provide that software as SaaS.
Okay. Okay. It's probably like Uber. If you kind of start looking at the same venue, like when you're going to travel, it will just increase the price. Maybe something like that. Understood. Understood. Like, okay, nice. I got a lot of insights on SaaS. Maybe I didn't know so much when I was like researching on pricing and all, but I didn't know about this dynamic
You know,
pricing
the
and all
hidden, like
changing.
you will only learn this when you run your own SaaS company.
Yeah, probably.
Now, this is like those insider things that, but yeah, SaaS is super interesting. There's a
Yeah.
company called ChargeBee. I'm sure if you guys know about
Of
it,
course. Of course. Of
right?
course.
So ChargeBee, the way you have to charge your customers is every month, right, or every week. And the thing is that, when you're talking to larger customers, every deal is different. So some customers will get a 10% discount. Some customers will get a 10% discount for 2 years and then full
Right.
price after that. And some people will
Right.
get a custom plan, right, which is maybe pay after every 3 weeks or 4. And so ChargeBee and all these like tools help us create unique subscriptions for each customer. So
Right.
right now, out of the 44,000 customers, there are probably 5,000 unique plans, even though you only see 3 on the website:
Yes.
beginner,
Yes.
intermediate, and professional.
Right. Right. Right.
In reality, there are at least thousands of plans that any company has.
Agreed. Because ChargeBee, like we went to them for our, accounts reconciliation, finance and stuff. They did not quote us a pricing. They'll be like, tell me what is your ARR, tell me what is your annual revenue. Based on that, we'll come out with the pricing. And obviously, if you take one additional feature, then we'll be charging you accordingly. So I
Yeah.
agree that they'll never quote a pricing when you're on the first maybe discovery call.
But we started the same year as ChargeBee,
Okay.
2013, 2014. I mean, they had started before that, but they were scaling up around the same time that we were starting up. And so we are grandfathered into their old pricing plan.
Okay.
Okay.
Understood.
So because at the beginning they were also learning, we were also learning. So they put us on a flat fee plan. So
Okay.
even though we have scaled from 100 customers to 44,000 customers, we still pay the same price to ChargeBee.
Okay.
They've
Understood.
changed it now. Now it's not like that. But because we were grandfathered into the old plan, that same pricing is continuing. So we only still, I mean, I should not say it out loud because people will not be happy, but
Right.
you get the point.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed. Cool.
So, Pratham, just to come back to your beginnings, right? Like with an absolutely summarized analysis on SaaS, right? Pratham, like, how do you think as a country wherein we have been pushed into rote learning from the very beginning, right? Like from kindergarten to early schooling to middle school, senior school, etc., etc. How do you think in this entire journey of rote learning, Doon School was that game changer for you, which actually resulted in pen? Because in one of your interviews, I remember you were saying that you applied to all the Ivy Leagues with the mindset that ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा क्या होगा, कहीं पे नहीं होगा. But I mean, over there, you did not focus a lot on how Doon School played a very important role, right? Because some of my friends from Doon School also tell me about how the entire network and how that tag of Doon School just wants you to help other fellow students or alums or whatever from Doon School. So how was Doon School very pivotal, and how Doon School as an educational institute was way ahead of its time, when you were there or when it is right now, so to say?
Yeah. So here's the thing. Doon School was still ISC board. Okay. So the education itself was no different. What was happening in the classroom was no different from what happens in a St. Xavier's in Calcutta or what happens in a Kendriya Vidyalaya in Jalandhar or anywhere, right? Same book, same SD Chand chemistry book, right? All of that stuff. Nothing is different, right? So the education that happens inside the classroom is the same in Doon School, in Kendriya Vidyalaya, and wherever, right? So I don't think Doon School does a better job of educating you, to be very honest, at least in the classroom. What it does give you is diversity, right? You interact with people who are not living in your own city. You interact with people who come from wildly different backgrounds. And you talk to them about their life. You talk to them about, the world. And so in that sense, your perspective toward life grows, right? It is not just about, बाजू में क्या हो रहा है. It is not just about कि, कौन किसको date कर रहा है, right? So your conversations become slightly more nuanced, but at the same time, slightly more, wide, right? You talk about larger ideas. You talk about politics that's happening in Telangana, even though I'm from Punjab, right? So that is what any school or college that is good, that what we call is good. I think it brings diversity, and because that diversity, it changes the way you, like the conversation that we are having, right? We are all three from different cities. We come from widely different backgrounds, age groups, etc. So the conversation we are having is not कि भाई तेरी शादी कब हो रही है ये, मतलब, we are having like deep So I think that's what Doon School gave me, and I think that's also what led me to think about starting up in SaaS. That's also what sort of gave me the network, as you rightly pointed out, to sort of get help with early on. But still, I think it's mostly the diversity I would give 90% marks to.
Understood. So just to double click on that, Pratham, right? So I think from Doon School, you went on to Penn, right? And from what information is publicly available, right? You probably studied, if I'm not wrong, political sciences, system sciences, a BA and a BSc in that, right?
Yeah.
But I vividly remember a conversation wherein you were speaking, wherein you and a bunch of your friends, you had attended a hackathon, right? Wherein you coded something out in 48 hours, right? So I really just wanted to understand, how did that shift, from a political science, system sciences thing of a boy who comes from a family business background, moved to tech, right? And then SaaS, like how did that transition happen?
I think it's very interesting. And I think education is about widening your horizons and opening up your mind. It's nothing else, right? It's about being open-minded. That's all that education should be about. So when I came into college, right, I was sure I wanted to do mechanical engineering, right? I was sure. And what I was also sure about was that I'm not going to do computer science.
Okay.
Right? I was like, this mechanical engineering is core, basic engineering. This is what will give me like the right platform to learn stuff, this and that. I was sure that I will not do computer science because I thought computer science is like, very surface level. What will be the use cases, whatever. Wasn't very clear about it. But when I came into my freshman year, my first year of college, you have to, as part of the American experience, you have to take a course in social sciences. You have to take a course in natural sciences. You have to take a course in, different things. So I think the very first term, I had to take a course on the politics of European Union. Okay. And then the professor told us that if you want to study European Union, you should study the Airbus A380, which is that double-decker plane.
Right.
Okay. And I was like, wait, what? What does that even mean? This is like a political science class. We should be talking about like theories and Aristotle and all of these things, right? He's like, no, we're only going to talk about the A380. And I was like, wait, this makes no sense. But you see what I'm saying, right? He completely sort of opened my mind up to thinking about politics from the perspective of an aeroplane. And why he said that is that when A380 was being constructed, it was constructed by a joint venture between 6 or 7 countries, right? So the wings were made in London, and the fuselage was made in France, and something was made in Italy, and something was made in Germany. And when it all sort of came together, none of the parts actually fit each other. Okay, because London was, in the UK, they were using like a different metric system. In Germany, they were using a different metric system, right? And the wires, there's a certain standard the wires have to be, and those standards were not matching. And that's why the A380 got delayed by some 8-9 years.
All right.
Right. And is there looking at A380 is the best way to understand European politics. That's how dysfunctional it is.
Right.
Now, it's been 10 years since I took that class, and I still remember it so vividly, right? So I think what, American college experience does to you is that it helps you sort of break free from, old traditional thinking about anything, right? So I had a class which was on this optimization and systems, right? So like how systems work, flow charts, etc., all of that, right?
Mhm.
Now my final project for that class was modeling the Indian election system
Yeah.
as a system,
Right.
right? And to see where there can be leakages and to see where there can be issues as to see, and how we can increase turnout. So again, we are talking about political science and matching it up with like systems thinking and putting it
Right.
together. And I think making those like diverse connections in your mind, it really sort of fires a lot of neurons, right?
Right.
And I think that's what led me, to change from mechanical to political science to systems to eventually SaaS, right? And then and now into education,
Right.
because this, I think education, what it allowed me to do was build these connections in my mind. I don't know if this makes sense. Uh,
Yeah.
I
Totally.
don't know if you're
Totally.
following, but I think that is really what education is, and which is what we're trying to do in Masters Union now. Can we help people make diverse connections in their minds, right? Can you think of this bottle from the perspective of metaphysics? Can you think
Right.
about this podcast from the perspective of, your sociological bringing up, in Calcutta, right?
Hmm.
It
Right.
could be anything.
Correct. Correct. So, like, how does this, like, how did it trigger getting into something like maybe a SaaS? Like, was it like, were you like interconnecting the loops that were going on within you, or it just like flew the way you kind of, thought about it, or way you kind of worked on it? How did this trigger, like, this
Yeah.
events trigger?
So that's a good question. So I think, as Samarth was saying, I first went for a hackathon, and I was
Right.
in Philadelphia, and the hackathon was happening in Princeton.
Right.
And I went for that hackathon. And because I was super interested in knowing that, what are these like startups that are coming up, and maybe I thought going to the hackathon, building my own product would be the best way to understand this entire game, right? Um, so I went to the hackathon and I, worked with like 5 or 6 students who were also, visiting from different universities. And we decided to pitch this one product, and we built up a small, prototype. It actually did not work, but, we essentially linked PowerPoint slides to make it seem like the product is working.
Right.
Right. So it was a hack, genuinely. And so it was essentially a product where you could read news and you could also see which of your friends will be most affected by that news. Right.
Okay.
So let's say you're reading a news article about there being a bomb blast in Chennai. Right. So it'll tell you that, 3 of your friends are from Chennai and one of them actually just checked in into this hotel where the bomb blast happened. Right.
Hmm.
And so that contextualizing of news was the idea. And that came from my political science, reading, because I had to read a lot of news and I used to keep, and also because I was very social. I had a lot of friends across the world, all of that. And
Hmm.
so I thought, like this could be a cool way to build the future of news. So I went, pitched that idea. We actually won that hackathon, which was very
Yeah.
interesting. And then I wanted to sort of figure out what more we can do in that product. Right. And then as I was building that product, I realized I needed developers. Right.
Right.
And I was like, wait, where do I find developers in the US? They're so expensive. Right. Then I realized, oh, there are developers in India. And I understood that entire market about, outsourcing and all of that. And so the very first product that I started building was a company called, after this, I realized this news thing will not work. It'll be very hard to monetize it, all of that. Right. So we let that one go. But what we learned from that was that, hey, listen, there is a market to, do outsourcing in a better way for startups, because outsourcing for large companies, Infosys and all of them are there. But if you want to outsource as a startup, what do? So we built like an Infosys equivalent for startups, which is nothing but a
Okay.
simple dev shop
Right. Right. Of course.
or a consulting firm. So, we would get projects in the US and then, we hired a few developers in India and then they would do those projects. And most of those projects were for our friends who were starting up as well. Right. We did that for 2-3 years and, we realized that this is also getting too servicey, which is something that I had vowed not to do. So,
Right.
we let go of that.
Okay.
Right. But as we were building, that team of software developers, first of all, we had a team of software developers now. That was very useful. But more
Okay.
importantly, what we realized was that, the question that we would get asked most often was that, hey, listen, I want to build this app. How much will it cost?
Correct.
Right. And we would answer that question with 30 times a day.
All right.
because friends would keep asking, "मेरे को ये बनाना है,
Yeah.
कितने का लगेगा?" Whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what we did was Randy, who was my business partner at the time, we sat down and we built up a small calculator. Okay.
All right.
And that calculator would basically calculate, some inputs they will take, and I'll, churn that so it will ask you, like, you want to build an iOS or Android. You want login or you don't want the login. You want like chat features, you don't want chat features. You want payment integrated, you don't want payment integrated. So 10 questions, I'll tell you exactly how much your app will cost.
Okay.
So we built that calculator like as a small HTML page, and that calculator went completely viral.
Okay.
Right? Because that was solving a problem for lots of people that we didn't even know. We thought we were making it for our customers, but on Quora, it became a #1 most voted answer. On Product Hunt, we were #1 that day. I remember this is back in 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
And then we're like, hey, listen, these calculators are quite cool for lead gen. Why don't we make a tool that helps people build these calculators?
Right.
And that's what Outgrow is, which is what I ended up doing for the next 10 years.
Correct.
Right? Outgrow just lets you build your own cost calculators, assessments, graders, quizzes, etc. And so, one thing just leads to another in your mind. You just have to be open-minded about, accepting new ideas, thoughts, challenges. Yeah. And then also very important is to let go of your previous projects. Right. So one thing I think that we did well was we never got married to our projects. Okay. We never got emotionally attached. As soon as we felt, yaar, iska kuch nahi hone wala, we left it. We didn't try to just make it work.
Yeah. So I think there's a tinge of, maybe if I say from a spiritual point of view, it's like that ego that keeps you stuck to that particular thing that, okay, maine banaya hai, to it can't be wrong, right? Yeah. That notion has to be moved on, and then you kind of grow maybe. So are you still like actively involved in Outgrow, or it's like managed by your co-founder back in the States?
Yeah, no, not anymore. So the way we thought about it is that, I felt that both of us are very ambitious folks, and we'd worked together for 10 years. And we thought that we'd both given to the company whatever we can.
Right.
And it had also reached a stage where things were automated, things were just running by themselves, and to be very honest, we had hit some sort of a revenue plateau.
Okay.
We weren't growing as fast as we wanted to, in spite of all effort. So we decided that, it doesn't make sense for both of our times to go into that. So then I decided to come back to India. I was also sort of missing my parents, so I wanted to move back to India. And so I moved back to India, and Randy continued. And so, I maybe talk to him once a week, but that's about it. But we moved the entire team now because automation had happened to India. Earlier we had a team in the US. Now we have nobody in the US. So now it's all run from India now.
Okay. So now I think coming to Masters Union, right? Like, obviously we know how it grew and what it does, and we'll come back maybe to the later in the conversation. But how did Masters Union start? Like, what made you start Masters Union in the first place? Because I've seen your podcast, but I don't know if I found that particular answer, that what made you start Masters Union in the first place.
Nothing. There's no deep story here, yaar. Of course, I had grown up looking at my parents doing education, right? And in front of me, they had built an education platform which taught 40,000 students a year.
Okay.
Right. Okay. And I realized that there is no edtech company that has reached this scale.
Right.
Number one. Number two, I realized that they had done it in a town like Jalandhar, which is a very small town.
Correct.
Right. And so I thought that with all the odds stacked against them, right, they were still able to build a pretty large education platform. And I thought that, this is a good, interesting business, right? So let's learn from all the mistakes my parents made over 15 years. And let's try to create something that solves for those mistakes. And so let's make, an education 2.0 platform.
Okay.
Also, to be very honest, I had an unfair advantage because I knew people in the sector through my parents.
Of course.
I, of course, knew my own parents. So they had a lot of advice to give me. I also understood the economics. Right. I understood what mistakes people make. I knew the competition inside out because, growing up, my parents would keep talking about their competition.
Yeah.
So I knew what the landscape looked like. So outside of SaaS, this was the industry I knew the best.
Okay.
Right? And I knew that I also brought in this sort of perspective of SaaS into education, which nobody else has till today. Right. So how can we think about education in a more productized way? How can you think of education in a more sort of SaaSy way, if you will, right? And how can you also bring in best practices from the US education system into India? So I think that's what led us to sort of focus on education. Also, the other thing is that if you look at the gross margins, SaaS gross margins are upwards of 70-80%. Right. There is only one other industry where that gross margin is also 70-80%, is education.
Yes.
Right. I know in edtech today, there are a lot of losses and all of that, which I don't understand how, to be honest. I really don't understand how in education you can make a loss.
Just to kind of cut you here, is edtech really edtech? Like it's just, say for example, I had taken classes for my CFA, right? So my teacher that time, I wanted to study from the teacher who was from Calcutta itself, because I'd studied my CA from him, right? What he gave me was a platform, right, where I can watch videos, and he had made the tech in such a way that I cannot, share it with anyone else. I cannot record it, and I cannot open any window while I'm watching those videos, and I can watch it only twice, right? So what is different from what he gave me and what like the current edtech businesses are giving us? Like, how is it like edtech? It's just like a platform where you can watch videos, right? And I am just learning from that. Like, I don't understand why is it called edtech in the first place.
No, exactly. It should be called ed video, not edtech.
Right.
I agree with you. I mean, there is nothing. So let's talk about education in general, right?
Yeah.
5,000 years ago, education was being given where I would stand in front of students, teacher would stand in front of students, he would say something, she would say something, students will listen, and then there'll be an exam where they'll be tested on what they have listened, right?
Right.
EdTech is exactly the same thing.
Right.
It's still someone coming in front of you, saying something, you listening to it, and you. So I think what Ed Video has done is that it has made education more accessible.
Right.
But I don't think it has improved education in any way.
Absolutely.
In fact, it has deproved education because there is no engagement. At least in the classroom, you have to be engaged.
Right.
You can't just sleep. You have to keep your video on in a classroom because you're on.
Yes. Of course.
Right. So I think EdTech has only taken education's quality backwards, not forward. That's number one. Okay. Now, what would true EdTech look like? I think that's a good question to ask, right?
Yes.
True EdTech would look like something that a game does, right? Where you're truly engaged in the experience, right? Where you're not just listening to somebody to learn, where you're actually doing something to learn.
Correct.
Right. So you guys are learning about podcasting by doing podcasts.
Yes.
You did not watch a video how to do a podcast and learn from that.
Right.
So how can we make this for thermodynamics? How can we make this for stock market? How can we make this for, organic chemistry? I think that, if achieved, would be EdTech.
Correct.
Simulations and games, and I think for each chapter that we had in high school and college, each chapter in itself is $1 million, $2 million company, if not $1 billion company.
Wow. Yeah. Amazing. Like that's something people I don't think have thought of also, right? Like if I'm spending like 10 hours watching Netflix, why? Because it's engaging me in some way or the other, right? Maybe if we can do something to the EdTech side or education side that way, I think that you're solving that problem in some way, because you're taking everything at Mastery Union very practically. Like you're getting all the practitioners rather than just the teachers. So obviously we'll talk about that, but I think that makes sense that we have to think it from like engaging point of view rather than just giving like a platform.
I'll give you an example, simple example. Yeah. In Masters Union, the very first term, we have this thing called the dropshipping project, which is all over LinkedIn right now because all the students are posting about it.
Right.
So what happens in dropshipping is that you all have to build your own e-commerce store and you all have to sell your stuff. And at the end of the term, you have to, this is all in 6 weeks, by the way, you have to set up a physical store in a mall and you have to sell that product on that kiosk. Just so that malls like they have those kiosks.
Okay.
Right. Everything happens in 6 weeks.
Okay.
Now, the thing is that when you are building a business and competing with the rest of your classmates on who gets more revenue, you are automatically motivated to learn. right? So you will figure out how to build an e-commerce store because you know what, there is a competition. You will figure out how to do a marketing campaign on Instagram with influencers because hey, you have no other choice, right? So when you sort of are given these, for lack of a better word, like these gamified, tasks, then you will automatically learn.
Right.
So we have made our entire term one into a game, which leads to you making real money. So on average, each of our teams made 3-4 lakhs. Right.
Wow.
In 6 weeks. And that learning can never be replaced by accounting 101, math 101, marketing 101, all of that stuff.
Yes. Maybe for accounts, you need a teacher because a teacher, what he teaches, you might not be able to learn it practically because that's a base which you kind of form. Because me being from the accounts background, I would say that if someone will put into managing accounts, I'll be able to manage, right? But that fundamentals, maybe a teacher only can teach. Like, is my understanding correct to some extent here?
100%. So what we do is that we have courses that go in the morning where we do teach you accounting, where we do teach you building marketing campaigns. We teach you all of those things. There's an actual professor who's a practitioner who comes in and teaches. However, the interesting part is that you don't have to wait 2 years to apply those learnings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? You learned accounting, let's say in IIM Kozhikode, you learned accounting in term 1.
Right.
You probably got placed after 2 years.
Correct.
And then by the time you got placed, you've forgotten how to apply those learnings. You've forgotten those learnings.
Right.
But here you get to apply them in the evening on your project.
Understood.
Right? Number one. Number two, a lot of learning can happen if the motivation is there. See, if I'm doing a business, I have to maintain my books of accounts.
Of course.
Right? Then I'll be self-motivated to learn accounts.
Yes.
The teacher doesn't have to take attendance. Ki bhai, tu aa class mein. I will come voluntarily because otherwise my business nahi chalega. Right. So the biggest problem in education is motivation, not teaching. If the student is motivated enough, he'll or she'll himself learn or herself learn.
Correct. Probably you get everything on YouTube, what you need on a theoretical perspective.
Exactly.
But maybe on the practical side, you need someone who's been in the market for ages or for decades, and learn from him directly would have a different perspective, right? So, agreed.
Even that is available on YouTube. Everything is available on YouTube. The only thing is not available on YouTube is motivation. Am I motivated to watch that video? Right? So colleges and universities and teachers are supposed to be igniting that motivation. They're not supposed to be teaching. Teaching will happen by yourself if you're motivated enough to teach. See, the thing is, in India, we motivate students by giving them this carrot of rankings.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tera class mein rank 1 aayega, rank 2 aayega. So I learned I used to be in like a very competitive, ICSE school, right? And so there, my motivation was not learn geography to learn geography. It was learn geography to, come rank 1 so that my parents will then buy me like my PlayStation or something. Right. That is wrong. That is completely wrong. You should be motivated to learn for the learning of it.
Correct.
Not for these, extrinsic things.
Yes. Agreed.
So, Pratham, like the problem that you were discussing about, edtechs having these insanely high costs, right? So I think the biggest plague to new day or modern age educational companies in India is the high CAC, because there is so many options that are available. I need to present myself as the most promising option for a student to partake, right? So when Masters Union entered the market, I think it was pre-pandemic, pandemic-ish phase, if I'm not wrong, right? So how did Masters Union position itself with the likes of IIMs and ISBs, where India is predominantly a brand-driven market that, अरे मेरा लड़का IIM से या मेरी लड़की ISB से, and how did A, Masters Union position itself, and B, I think within a year we were hearing from word of mouth acquisition channel that Masters Union is at par with IIM. Could be in terms of the CTC component, but word of mouth organically, that was the positioning that had happened, if I remember correctly.
Yes, exactly. So you asked me two questions actually. So let me answer two questions. One is the Masters Union story,
Yeah.
and the other is the CAC story
Correct.
for edtechs, right? So let's actually separate them two, and then we'll bring them together. So the CAC story in edtech is very clear here. What do you think? So there are more business schools and there are more universities than there are edtech companies today.
Right.
Right.
Agreed.
Right. So there is competition in business schools and universities, and there is competition in edtech. Right. But why is that business schools like IIM Cozy Code have zero CAC? Right. Or, or even like, let's say a tier 2 business school has zero CAC, or even a tier 3 business school has zero CAC, or near to zero CAC, or at least they're profitable. Whereas the 5 or 6 edtech companies are all in the negative.
Right.
Competition to wahan bhi hai.
Exactly.
So the reason is that business schools or universities or engineering colleges, good ones at least, tier 2 and above, they give outcomes to students.
Yeah.
They give outcomes, they give you jobs, they give you whatever, right? EdTech companies don't do that. EdTech companies just give you stamps.
Okay.
Right.
So when your competitive advantage is just stamps, then you have to market more.
True.
Correct.
Right.
What is stamp? When you say stamp, what
like
does it mean?
Upgrade ne IIM ka tag de diya. Like you can get this like PGP in whatever finance program from IIM, finance
Got it.
HBS, all of that. Those are all stamps. Certificates. Let me put it certificates.
Yes.
So I feel that's what leads to high CAC. Right. When you don't give outcomes, so you have to market more. You have to push more. Let's compare, let's say, an edtech company that does test prep and a quota coaching center.
Yes.
A quota coaching center like Alan has probably zero CAC, or again close to zero CAC.
Right.
Maybe 5-6% of their revenue goes into marketing.
Right.
Right. Whereas for an edtech, let's not take any names, probably 5x of their revenue goes into CAC.
Correct.
Because that Alan or that quota person is actually giving ranks. They're marketing, whatever little marketing they do, say, hey, listen, come to Callan, you'll get a rank 10. Right. But an edtech doesn't do that.
Right. Understood.
So that is why the CAC is high, because you have to push your message more and more and more and more. You have to go, sponsor IPL. You have to go sponsor the cricket team. You have to go do all of this stuff.
Yes.
Because you don't give outcomes.
Right. So when they market on quota, like the education centers quota, the banners will be not that you come here and study. It will be like, this guy got rank 1 by studying with our center. So maybe that's the experience, or that's what the parents or anyone who's enrolling wants, rather than just that, okay, you get a certificate in data analytics, you get a certificate in maybe something else. And I think makes sense totally, right?
And then if you give outcomes, then they will line up.
Right.
Because IIMs give outcomes. 250,000 people take the CAT every year.
Right.
Yes.
And they pay to get in. Matlab, IIM ka CAC negative hai. People are paying IIMs, can we get in?
Yes.
Right. People are paying Alan to fill in the application form. In edtech pay people to please just come.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And talk to them. Right. So that is the difference in real education and sort of, vanity education. And now coming to your second question about Masters Union versus IIMs, right? When we started off, we did not have placements to show. We did not have any data to show that, hey, listen, we will give placements. It's clear, so you should come to us. In the very first year, we had to differentiate our product. Right? So what was our differentiation? There was 3 differentiations. One was that we have practitioners coming and teaching.
Correct.
Right? Number 2 was that 50% of our program is technology. Right. And third was that our campus is in the middle of Cyber Hub, where the companies are also there, and they'll be right there
on the same campus.
Right. Now these are the 3 things that IIMs don't have.
Right.
They don't have practicing faculty. CEOs, MDs, not maybe 5%, 10%, but not all. They don't have any focus on technology, which is the future. And they're based like in campuses far away from the city, and they don't give as much exposure to corporate life.
Right.
So in the very first year, these 3 things were sort of the differentiated product. And my CAC was very high, by the way, because I did not have outcomes. My CAC was high. I calculate CAC on the basis of amount of money spent per application.
Okay.
Okay.
So at that time, my CAC was probably 1.5 2 lakhs in my first year. But as soon as the placement report went out, right, as soon as people realized yahan se outcome hai, right, and outcome is better than, let's say, others, my CAC came down to 1,100 rupees.
Wow.
Oh, insane.
Right. And this year will probably go negative because my application fees is 5,000 rupees and I have over 12,000 applications.
Okay.
So I have made 3.5 crores through application fees.
Right.
Right. So negative CAC.
Right.
In 1 year. Right. So if you give outcomes, there is no CAC problem. If you don't give outcomes, you will always have a CAC problem. And I'll tell you one more thing. Google and Facebook are very intelligent people. Right? They will keep increasing their cost per clicks.
Yeah.
Correct.
They will never decrease it.
Correct.
There are more and more edtech companies coming, so they know that. And these edtech companies, almost 50-60% of their expenditure happens on Facebook and Google.
Yes.
So their CAC will keep going up. That is clear to you, right? CAC will keep going up because cost per click is going up.
Yes.
But at the same time, their ARPU, average revenue per student, is coming down because of competition. They have to slash their prices.
Right.
Right. Byju's prices only come down, never gone up.
Correct.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So the curves are going in the opposite direction.
Worse.
Will they ever be profitable?
See, now they have, if they can reduce their reliance on Facebook and Google, yes, they can be profitable. And if they can start talking about outcomes, which they have now, right? Relevel is sort of, a step in the right direction. I feel, the Byju's acquisition of Akash is great, right? So I think all of those things are steps in the right direction. I think they'll be fine.
So, Pratham, just towards the concluding end of the conversation, right? Just a synopsis question from this entire narrative that you put forth, right? So, in terms of the current behavior, right? Students are still more akin to offline education, right? Like you said, the face-to-face engagement drives the message forward, right? So, what is that advantage, or what is that incentive that edtechs have to just bombard more and more when the real use case is happening in the offline market? So again, just to summarize my question, do you think, or do you feel that the future of education in India in particular and the world in general is still going to be very much offline resilient, or there will be a fair share of shift towards the hybrid sort of a thing? Because again, given that I have been a product of all three, which is completely offline, completely online, and a mixture of the two, I completely resonate with the fact that the offline version is something that just kicks the message through to the students or the receiving customer.
So let's talk about data here, right? There are 4 crore students in the country, period. Okay. In higher education, we're not talking about higher education. We're not talking about school education.
Right.
And 4 crore students who are enrolled in undergrad, postgrad, PhD, polytechnic programs in the country. 4 crores. It's actually 3.6 crores. 1 crore enter into the market every year.
Correct.
1 crore new students get enrolled in some sort of a college or university or business school every year. Out of those 1 crore, 6 lakh, 7 lakh are in engineering.
Right.
Because that's the JE.
Correct.
10 lakh people take the JE, but not all join. Right. 2 lakh enter into medicine and all of these, like allied medicine, MBBS, physiotherapy, pharmacy, all of that. 1 lakh or something join in law. 1 lakh or something join in MBA. Right. Maybe 50-60,000 join in PhD programs, etc. Maybe another 50-60,000 join in, masters in engineering and all of that. Where do the rest 90 lakh people go? Where do they go? You tell me.
I mean, I would honestly think that they would look for opportunities that again are very outcome driven. That job.
But what program are they doing? I told you 1 crore people join education every year, higher education every year. 6 lakh join medicine, engineering, and 4 lakh join medicine, law, MBA. The rest 90 lakhs are still left. What are they studying?
Maybe just like a normal bachelor's degree or a diploma
Yes.
degree. Yeah.
Which one?
Bachelor's in commerce or bachelor's
BCom,
in BCom, BBA,
and BA.
BA, right.
The 90 lakh is these 3 programs. Okay. So that is, first of all, that is the education market in India. Let's be very clear about that.
Correct.
Now, let's say these 1 crore people, how many of them are being enrolled in online programs? Out of these 1 crore people. Keep in mind that 90 lakh were only in BCom, BA, BBA, which is not online at all.
Not online at all. Exactly.
Maybe 1 lakh?
Yeah, maybe 1 lakh. Tops.
Maybe 1 lakh on the higher side.
Yes.
Right. So basically, out of 1 crore people, only 1 lakh people are enrolled in any kind of online program.
Right.
99 lakh are still in offline.
Yeah.
And this is not changing anytime soon. Maybe that 1 lakh will become 2 lakh in 5-6 years. Right. But that 99 lakh will also become 1 crore 20 lakhs or something.
Correct.
Right. So online as a market is very, very, very small as compared to offline. Extremely small. Out of the 100 rupees, let's say 100 rupees totally gets spent by the entire country on education, higher education, 99.9 is being spent on physical colleges only.
Correct.
Right? So online is a very small market. It will grow, no doubt about it. It will keep growing. But true education, real education will still be physical or hybrid. Maybe it'll become some parts of it. Like, for example, some colleges have started doing some courses online.
Yeah.
But still that physical proximity will be there. So I don't know if this answers your question.
No, it does.
99% maybe becomes 98%, maybe becomes 97%, but it'll still always be more than 95%.
Right.
Correct. Makes sense. But what about the students who are going to school? Because Byju's and all, they have this target market which is on the school side as well, right? Maybe from a class 6 to 10 or class 6 to 12. So the tuitions which were happening physically, if they go to a coaching center or a teacher comes physically at home, that space is changing drastically is what I feel, because a lot of people are going on the tech side now.
Yeah. But still, you're still going to school now.
Correct. Yeah. Yes.
And the fees that you're spending on the school is a lot more than the fees that you're spending on the tuition. Hopefully it is.
Of course.
Hopefully it is. So the real, the parallel markets can keep growing in online. That's okay. But the core market, which is the actual ICSE, CBSE, IB, whatever, that is still in physical schools.
Understood.
So supplementary market can be online, sure. But supplementary market will not be more than 5-6% of the actual market.
Correct. Understood. So yeah, just being mindful of your time. I have just a couple of questions, which is like, on this, and then we have like a common question on books and all that will not take more than 2 minutes. So we are speaking a lot about managements and how the management course helps you get a good job, but we spoke about maybe having your own mindset which helps you kind of grow, and you should increase your horizon. Then we spoke about diversity, obviously, where you had at Doon School. Then the last point I want to touch base was the network, right? When you go to an MBA school, maybe the curriculum is same across all, right? But the network that you build is something which is different, right? So how does this, because if you see a lot of co-founders of companies now, or maybe they were batchmates, or maybe in this senior junior, so I think more than the education, like the curriculum side of it, what people do in this B schools or big institutes is the network which helps them grow over the period. What's your take on that? Like this, like the final thing.
No, absolutely. I met my co-founder in college. We did a class project together. So I think across the world, your social network is first built through your family, like my cousins, my brother. And second is through friends I meet in school and college.
Correct.
Right? These are the only 2 ways you meet new people other than dating apps. Right?
Okay.
So I think that this will always remain the case, that and that's also where online education sort of lacks a little bit. That there is very little peer-to-peer learning. There is only video to peer learning.
Correct.
What I learned from my peers is a lot more than anything else. So I think that'll always remain the case. I mean, there is no doubt about it that
Mhm.
you know you'll still meet your co-founders in college. I think that'll never change, and that's
Okay.
probably true. Probably 90% of all folks met like that,
Correct. Yes,
if not
exactly.
more. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry.
So understood. Fine. I think we had an amazing conversation. But just to end, we kind of asked like a few book recommendations which have helped you across, your journey of becoming an entrepreneur and during your school times, maybe your college times. And obviously, we are from finance, so we want to ask, what is your definition of financial freedom or financial independence?
Um, See, I think we did this math once back in the day, which is
Mhm.
that you need approximately uh, 90,000 rupees in-hand income per month uh, to live a very comfortable life.
Okay.
Okay, like a very good life where you have, you can go to like holiday maybe once in 6 months. You can like eat out every couple of weeks to like a very nice place. You can live respectfully, and you can save for insurance, etc. All of that. So
Mhm.
90,000 is a very good amount,
Okay.
right? And you can buy like yourself a good car that has airbags and all of that, right? So my sense is that you have to hit that,
Okay.
right, as early as you can, and thereafter everything else is icing and cherry on the cake,
Okay.
right? So for me, financial freedom is that if you can get to that 90K, right, per month income, which a lot of students can, right? Beyond that, you should only do it for your passion. If you're like really passionate about like some industry, you should start up in that, or work harder in that. So I think financial freedom is attained at like 90,000 is
Okay.
is what I feel.
Mhm.
My friends don't agree with me, and I get challenged on this quite a bit, and sometimes I'm not able to defend. But I think that for me is financial freedom. Number one. Number two, the other thing is that uh, it's less about being free financially. It is more about being free from a mindset,
Right.
right? I think that's a bigger problem.
Right.
You might be earning enough money, but you're still not free,
Correct.
Mhm.
right? Because you have commitments and family and whatever, etc. XYZ. So I think usually it's those things that pull you back rather than the financial freedom. It's the other kinds of freedoms that you need, right?
Right. Right.
I
Agreed.
don't know if this answered your question at all,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, yeah. So even I don't know if 90,000 is still like that number maybe, but because I stay in Mumbai, right, where the rent only in the first place is so expensive that
Actually,
for that maybe that takes up maybe 20-30% of my in-hand income. After that, I go to save and have my daily the needs which I have to fulfill. So maybe 90,000 for me, but a number has to be there, which for you maybe is that 90,000. But that is what I was always number for me. Like I read this book recently called Just Keep Buying, right? So that guy said that you should have 25x your yearly spending as your financial freedom number. So obviously that has to be inflation adjusted,
yeah,
but that should be a number. So anytime at any age your current spending savings are 25x your current yearly spendings, you can retire.
yeah.
So those numbers, that it's very relative, very honestly. So there is no way, I would say that you are wrong or I am right. It's very relative. So
Yeah,
agreed.
yeah. Bombay is probably, I think it was probably a little bit more, but mine
Yeah,
was
yeah.
for Gurgaon.
Okay.
Yeah,
Understood.
yeah,
So
yeah. Makes
any
sense.
book recommendations?
Yeah, so I think there is a book called uh, Good to Great,
Yeah.
and by the same author. There's another book called Built to Last.
Yes. Right. Right.
These two books are basically about what good companies look like from the inside,
Hmm.
Right.
right? And in no education system is this taught. You know,
Correct.
uh, so like, why is it that Kodak did not last, beyond one cycle of disruption, and why is it that IBM keeps lasting? year after disruption. And what is that difference is what these two books try to, talk about. And I feel like,
Yes.
I think, good companies take time to build, and how to build them is a skill, is an art. So these two books really talk about that. So if your audience is more sort of startup founders or aspiring founders, then these two books have to be read. Beyond,
Understood.
Before you read, like, whatever, the lean startup machine and all of that.
Yeah.
These two are sort of the Bibles that you should start off with.
Understood. Fair enough. So yeah, thank you, Pratham. I just had one point in the end. Like my wife is a Montessorian. She's a teacher, and I just made her see your videos. When I was watching your podcast, and she absolutely loved it, and she just wanted me to tell you that she loved the way you kind of have the view on the education system. So yeah, you've had a great impact. I think not on us, but a lot of folks, at least on the education side of the system. So yeah, thank you, a big thank you for having us. And there is this energy about you. I don't know, you're always smiling, or you're always happy. Like right now also you're talking, so you're just smiling and talking. You just have this energy. Is there a secret sauce to it, or it's just like how you are?
I don't know, man. This is. I think, like, so 3 days ago we had Rajan Anandan, who's a Sequoia MD.
Yeah.
He
Yes.
came to campus. He came to Masters Union, and I asked him the same question. I was like, "Why do you have so much energy?"
Right.
And his answer was that he's just so happy doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's like, I wake up in the morning and I sing in the morning as soon as I wake up, and my wife is like,
Wow.
"What's wrong with you?" He's like, "I'm just so excited to see what's gonna happen today, right? Rest of the day and all of that." So he's like, that brings like a smile on my face. So maybe it's the same for me. Like
Yeah.
you're surrounded by like young students, and like you talk to them all the time. So I think it's just your state of mind.
Correct.
Yeah. Agree. All right. I think we love the conversation, and thank you so much for taking time out from your busy schedule to host, come as a guest on our podcast. We are relatively new, but having a response from you was a big feat, at least in the beginning of our podcast journey. So thank you so much, Pratham, for your time today, and we would love to absolutely come